Hello and welcome to the Expertly German podcast, the podcast to learn German. Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Expertly German Podcast, dem Podcast zum Deutschlernen. Und heute fangen wir an mit dem Sprichwort der Woche. Und zwar das Sprichwort der Woche ist: Ich drücke dir die Daumen. The saying of the week is, well, in English, directly translated, it would be, I am pressing my thumbs for you. I probably just said that wrong with my accent and so on.
I press my thumbs for you?
Yes, exactly. So
What?
are we making an English lesson today?
I press my thumbs for you.
Yes.
It sounds like in Romeo and Juliet, there's a scene of anyway, I press my thumbs for you. What does this mean?
It means, can you think of there is an English one, which is pretty much similar. You're also doing something with your hands and kind of like it has the same
Press
meaning.
my thumbs.
You're crossing your fingers. If you cross your fingers, you're wishing luck to someone else, I would say, something like that, right? And in German, we don't cross the fingers, we are pressing our thumbs. And
I press my thumbs for you.
You know, exactly.
It's almost romantic. I'm pressing my thumbs for you.
Ich drücke meine Daumen.
Wow.
Oder ich drücke dir die Daumen, like I press my thumbs for you. Something like that. So, ich drücke dir die Daumen heute, dass du gut aufpasst in dem Unterricht und dass du viel lernst. So, I'm crossing my fingers, I'm pressing my thumbs for you that you'll learn a lot today in this lesson. What do we learn today about? Was lernen wir heute? Wir werden uns weiterhin mit den Präpositionen für Location, also für den Ort beschäftigen und heute mit den Präpositionen in, außerhalb, durch und über.
Say those again. Außerhalb?
Yes,
Durch?
außerhalb, durch.
Ooh.
Durch.
Durch.
Yes.
That's a fun one.
Yeah,
And
durch. And über, yes.
Everyone can say Uber.
Uber, not Uber. That's the car company, but we are talking about Uber.
Uber.
Yes, because you write that like Uber, you write that with a U-B-E-R, right? But Uber, we write that with the vowel, the umlaut, U with the two dots, which is the Ü, and then the B, E, and R.
Uber.
And what that means, we will discover that today. Okay, so let's start with in. In is one of those prepositions, like last time we had auf, that can have a lot of meanings, but actually in is quite easy because it's similar to the English, I would say. So the first one, or the first way how we use the word in we would say something like, I am living in Frankfurt. So, or he lives in Frankfurt. How would you say that?
Wohnt in Frankfurt.
Ja, wohnt in Frankfurt. So when you say a certain place where you live, then that is kind of like what we would say. Wohnt in Frankfurt. And you can also use that for a specific street. For example, could you say he lives in the whatever street? I don't know, the Tree Street, the Schiller Street.
Wohnt in der Schillerstraße.
Yeah, exactly. And do you remember the two-way prepositions? One of those two-way prepositions is in.
It is.
It is, exactly. And so Straße is feminine. And the rule for the two-way prepositions was that if it's about a specific location, not a movement, then we are using the dative case. So we are not saying wohnt in die Straße, in die Schillerstraße, but we say wohnt in der Schillerstraße because we use the dative case here. Yeah. So that's mucho importante.
Good recap from a
Yes,
previous lesson.
I know.
Nice plug.
Yeah. And then the second meaning is in a newspaper or like a book, something like that. So, for example, you could say something like, I read the article or something like that in the newspaper. How would you say that in German?
Something like, ich lese
den Artikel
in der Zeitung.
Ja, ich lese den Artikel in der Zeitung, which means I am reading the article in the newspaper. Well, I also wrote the sentence here, es gibt viele Stellenanzeigen in der Zeitung, which means there are many kind of job advertisements, I would say. That's how you say it in English, right? In the newspaper. Ja, oder ich habe, keine Ahnung, einen interessanten Satz in dem Buch gelesen. So I read an interesting sentence in the book. All right, so and the next meaning is in a room, but you can also say in a vehicle. For example, our dog is waiting already in the car. How would you say that?
Unser Hund wartet schon im Auto.
Ja, schon.
Oh, I always go wrong with the schön.
Yeah.
Schon.
Yeah, schon, exactly. Schön is beautiful or nice. But schon, well, actually, schon has a lot of meanings, but one of those, a lot of meanings, is already. So, unser Hund wartet schon im Auto. Our car is already waiting in the car. Our dog is already waiting in the car. And then also in a room or something like that. For example, I don't know, I sit in the living room. How would you say that?
Ich sitze in dem living room. I know
Yeah.
Zimmer is room
Yeah.
in a house. So living room is Lebenszimmer?
No, Wohnzimmer. Lebenszimmer.
Wohnzimmer.
That's also good. No.
Life room.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
kind of like that. Im Wohnzimmer.
Wohnzimmer. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the third one. And now we have a fourth one. Within a defined space. So it's a bit similar to the first one, but you're not specifically just in a room or specifically just in a vehicle. You are, for example, in a school. For example, you could say, I go into the school, but how would you say I learn mathematics in school?
In der Schule
Ja.
lerne ich Mathematik.
Ja, in der Schule lerne ich Mathematik. Okay, so could you also say, ich lerne Mathematik in der Schule?
Ja, na klar.
Why are you so confident about that?
Because to me that sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. And in German, what we can do is we can actually switch the subject and the object around. So you could also say, ich lerne Mathematik in der Schule, right? So
And you
that's
can do
perfectly
that.
fine.
Yeah, right. Like in English, you can say in the school I'm learning maths, or you can say I'm learning maths in the school.
Yeah, cool, perfect. So it's similar to English then. And then one that is not very clear to, I would say English speakers, but also like maybe other countries. It's like we also use in the sense of on TV or on radio. For example, there is a great song or a good song on radio. How would you say that then?
So this is in. So I'm going to say in der Radio. In der Radio. Is it radio or radio?
Radio.
Well, in der Radio läuft ein gutes Lied.
Lied. Light is pain. Well, let's
There's
go
a
with
great
Lied.
pain on the radio.
Yes.
Possibly true.
If you don't like the song.
Yeah.
Okay, so im Radio läuft ein gutes Lied, because radio is das Radio, which is neutral, and we again have in the two-way preposition, and we are not asking where to, but we ask where, so we use the dative case, and that then makes it in dem Radio läuft ein gutes Lied.
Okay.
But what we also do in the German language is we combine it, and we just say im Radio läuft ein gutes Lied. Yeah, and then the läuft means like runs. Kind of, if you translate it directly, it would be on radio runs a good song.
And how does it sound to you as a German person if I was still learning this and I'm saying in dem Radio? Like, would that sound like incorrect, or would you just like, how wrong is it for someone who's learning?
45% wrong.
Okay. It makes sense to someone listening, but it would be like just a obvious.
Yes. So when you say in dem Radio, that means like in this specific radio. That's how it sounds like. In this radio, which doesn't really make sense.
For a radio, yeah.
Okay. So we would just say im Radio läuft.
That's really helpful, because I often just think, it doesn't really matter. It's like a tiny difference, but that's how it would come across to you. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And then the last meaning, sorry, and you can also obviously use that for TV. So zum Beispiel im Fernsehen läuft ein guter Film.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. All right, and then the last meaning for in is into a room. how would you say something like, so I am going into a room or I'm going into the kitchen?
Ich gehe in die Küche.
In die Küche.
In die Küche.
Ich gehe in die Küche. Exactly. So it's kind of like, I would say that's the most common way how you would use in, like when you go into something or you put something into somewhere. That's how we use that. Yeah. So I would say in is not too difficult because it's quite similar to the way
Yeah,
how you use it in English. But the on TV and on radio, I would say that's the one that stands out. Cool. All right. And then next one is außerhalb. And the meaning of außerhalb is outside of something. So you have to use it together with a noun. And we use it together with the genitive case. So außerhalb, for example, my family lives outside of the city, which is actually true. So I would say, meine Familie wohnt außerhalb der Stadt. So in here, der Stadt, we have the genitive for the city. So you couldn't just say, I'm sitting outside. That doesn't work. You can't say, ich sitze außerhalb. You have to say what you're sitting outside of.
If I was saying I was sitting outside, would I say draußen?
Yes, ich sitze draußen.
That's outside. This is outside of.
Yeah.
You cannot separate that. Okay.
Exactly.
Außerhalb.
So there are not so many examples that I can think of. Another one would be maybe outside of the kind of like of the border of the EU. There are, I don't know, other countries or other rules or something like that. Well, that's quite a difficult sentence, so I'll maybe help you with that one. So außerhalb der Landesgrenzen der EU gibt es andere Länder. Ja, or andere Regeln. So outside of the country borders, Landesgrenzen, so plural, of the EU, there are other rules. Yeah. Cool. And then that was pretty much it with außerhalb. It's not
Nice
that
and sweet.
difficult.
Yeah.
Nice and sweet. Okay. And the next one is durch.
Durch.
Durch. Which is, well, the meaning that we use here is through or across.
There's some very funny memes for Germans about through, isn't there?
Yes, there is like this one cat that looks really funny, and how the Germans can't say the word through. I practiced this before
I was
our
going to say, you did very well there,
podcast
Tom.
a
Very
couple
well.
of times. Okay, so an example sentence would be, I go through the forest. How would you say that?
I go through the forest. Ich gehe durch
Mhm.
den Wald.
Den Wald.
Den Wald.
Yes, exactly. The forest is der Wald. And after the preposition durch, we have to always use which case? Accusative.
Accusative.
Yes,
obviously.
exactly.
Yeah.
So after the preposition durch, we always use the accusative case. Wald is masculine, and that's why the der changes to den. Ich gehe durch den Wald. Another example would be, I drive through the tunnel. Maybe, how would you say, I drive through the tunnel and then across the bridge?
You're really pushing me now.
Yes.
Okay. Ich fahre
Mhm.
durch den Tunnel.
Ja.
Und dann über die Brücke.
Yes, so you kind of peeked a little bit into our document because, and by the way, you can get this document at buymeacoffee.com. So what we are doing here, you just said über die Brücke. So I said that the meaning of durch is through and across.
So I should just use durch twice?
No, you did it correctly, because if you're kind of surrounded by something, then we use durch. If you're literally on a surface going across something, then you use über. For example, I go through the forest, then I'm literally surrounded by the forest. But if I want to say I go across the field, then I'm not, unless the grass is really high, but let's say that's not the case, then ich gehe über das Feld.
Okay, question. What about the sea?
Ich fahre über das Meer.
Okay, because you're on a boat atop it. But if you were like swimming
Ich
through
schwimme
it.
durch.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you would say, ich schwimme durch den Fluss. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you literally swim like through it. Yeah. So kind of like, yeah, that's how I remember it. Like you could either walk over the water. Well, I mean, like,
Jesus did.
Jesus did. But you could walk, or you could walk through the water, which is literally like you can't walk on top of it. You have to kind of walk through it.
Yeah.
That's maybe how you can remember
Okay.
it. Cool. How would you say now my sister went through the room? And now we use went, which I'd like you to use the present perfect, which you obviously remember very well.
Obviously, I mean, yes. I have, meine Schwester
Ja.
hat,
Ist.
Ist.
Because there's movement. So when we have movement for the present perfect, we use to be.
So meine Schwester ist
durch
das
Zimmer gegangen. Yes, gegangen. So you have to adjust the gehen for the past participle. Meine Schwester ist durch das Zimmer gegangen. Yeah. Okay, and next one. The athlete swims across the river. We kind of touched on that already.
Okay. Der Athlet schwimmt durch den Fluss.
Yeah, exactly. Der Athlet schwimmt durch den Fluss. And that's how we use the preposition durch in terms of location. And the last one, über, which also has the usage or the translation of across, but also above. And as I pointed already out, the across here is more like when you're kind of on the surface.
Yeah.
So ich gehe über die Straße means I go across the street. That's how you would use über in one way using across. So again, ich gehe über die Straße. I go across the street. And then we have another example. How would you say the bird is flying over the tree?
Der Vogel fliegt über den Baum.
Ja, der Vogel fliegt über den Baum. Über is also a two-way preposition. And so here we have a movement. And that's why we use den. Baum is masculine. And so der changes to den. My dog walks across the field. How would you say that?
Mein Hund
geht
über den Feld.
Das Feld.
Oh, das Feld.
Yeah, in this case, you can't know that. It's difficult to kind of know that Feld is neutral. But mein Hund geht über das Feld. Yeah, and because there's a movement, which case do we have here?
Because there's movement, then we have the accusative case.
Yes, chaka. Exactly. We're getting there. Okay, and next one. The drone, I don't know, I couldn't come up with anything better. The drone hovers above the building.
Well, hovers is obviously my critical vocabulary that I know.
Schweben.
So, schweben.
Yeah, schweben.
And drone is, well, usually
Very
tech
difficult.
is like the same, right?
Exactly.
Drone is just drone.
And it's feminine. Die Drohne.
Die Drohne. Die Drohne schwebt über das Gebäude.
Yes, but so in this case, there is not a movement because it's literally hovering over it. So, right, it's kind of like static. So, schwebt über dem Gebäude, right? Imagine.
It changes from das.
Yeah, because it's like on one specific spot. There's not a change from like one state to another. So, die Drohne schwebt über dem Gebäude.
Yeah.
And then the last example that I have here, the hippo goes across the bridge.
You just wanted something to put the hippo in.
I will put the hippo into every lesson.
Okay.
So we will be masters in knowing how to say hippo in German.
I feel like you need to give us some more of these like not ridiculous, okay, but like fun word compilations. That
on my Instagram I sometimes post that.
On your Instagram, okay.
Check me out.
Okay, so the hippo goes across the bridge. The Nile horse goes over the bridge. So das Nilpferd, is that how you say it?
Nilpferd. Yeah, it's literally like the English Neil Armstrong or, well, American.
The Neil Armstrong goes across the bridge. Das Nilpferd über die Brücke.
Well, where's a verb? You just said the hippo over the bridge. We need a verb.
Das Nilpferd geht über die Brücke.
Yes, exactly. Das Nilpferd geht über die Brücke, and then the bridge, I don't know, breaks.
I know it probably went under, right? So anyway, different lesson.
Unter, exactly.
Unter die Brücke.
That's another preposition, and we do that next time.
Unter und ober. Anyway.
Okay, guys, I've created some more exercises for you, which you can find in the PDF document, which you can download at buymeacoffee.com, where the link is in the show notes as well. You can buy the document for €1. That really helps us to continue to do the podcast. You can also sign up for the membership. That's only 3 months, and you get access to all future and past learning material for the podcast. So that's kind of like, I would say, a bargain. Well, that's at least the way how I see it. And you can also go to my website, expertlygerman.com. I am offering there an A1 beginner's course, that like a complete beginner's course. And that one will launch on June the 15th. I already put it up. You can already sign up for the early bird there. So that's coming out soon. And also I have a course on A1 to B2, which you can also sign up for. And you can book one-on-one lessons with me.
And
cheers, guys. Thank you very much for listening and learning. See you next time.